Listen closely, because what I'm about to say isn't just news. It's reality. Behind every headline, behind every political debate, behind every trending hashtag, there are people. There are families. There are children whose dreams are buried under rubble. And there are voices screaming into the dark, hoping someone, anyone is listening. But here's the painful truth. The world has turned this conflict into a chessboard. Power, politics, interests. Everyone has something to gain. Everyone has something to protect. And in the middle of it all, humanity is bleeding. You've seen the images. You've heard the stories, but have you ever stopped and really listened? Listened beyond sides, beyond flags, beyond walls? Because this isn't just about Israel. This isn't just about Palestine. This is about all of us. Every time you hear the news, they throw numbers at you. Dozens killed, thousands displaced, millions affected. But behind every single number, there's a name, there's a face, there's a story. That On could be a mother holding her child under the sound of sirens, praying they both survive the night. That 10 could be families forced out of their homes, carrying only memories and broken dreams. That 100 could be children who will never return to school, who will never know safety again. Statistics make it easy to distance ourselves from pain. Numbers feel cold. Numbers feel safe. Numbers don't cry. Numbers don't bleed. But people do. Behind every headline you scroll past, there's a father digging through rubble with his bare hands, searching for his daughter. There's a little boy asking why the sky is on fire and why the world is so loud. There's a young girl who should be playing, laughing, living. But instead, she's learning the sound of bombs before the sound of love. We hear civilian casualties, and it sounds like data. We hear collateral damage, and it sounds like policy. But these are human beings with lives, dreams, and memories. Until they become part of a number. The tragedy is not just the violence itself. It's how we've learned to normalize it, how we've learned to consume human suffering like entertainment. We scroll, we watch, we share, and then we move on, forgetting that for someone else, the pain doesn't stop when we put our phones down. A statistic can't tell you the sound of a mother screaming when she loses her child. It can't describe the silence of a street that once overflowed with laughter, but now lies in ruins. It can't capture the weight of a father burying his family with his own hands. Behind every statistic is a heartbeat. Behind every statistic is someone's first love, someone's favorite song, someone's unfinished dreams. Behind every statistic is a human life. When you turn on the TV or scroll through your social media feed, you think you're seeing the truth. You believe the headlines are telling you the full story, but they're not. What you see is only a fragment, a carefully selected piece of reality, shaped and filtered before it ever reaches your eyes. Every image, every headline, every breaking news banner is chosen for a reason. Behind every story is an editor deciding what to show and what to hide. Behind every picture is a photographer choosing an angle, a frame, a moment in time. And behind every exclusive update, there's an agenda, political, economic, or emotional. You see a bombed building, but you don't see the families trapped inside before the explosion. You hear about conflicts, strikes, and operations. But you're rarely shown the children who wake up screaming every night from the sounds of war. You read about peace talks and ceasefires, but the cameras don't follow the refugees walking miles without food, searching for safety that may never come. The media doesn't just inform you, it shapes you. It decides which emotions you feel, which side you sympathize with, and which stories stay buried in silence. Two different channels can show you the same event, yet tell completely opposite narratives. One paints heroes, the other paints villains, and somewhere in the middle lies the truth. But you're rarely allowed to see it. Sometimes what's missing from the story is even louder than what's being shown. You're told who to blame, but you're never told the full history. You're shown the aftermath of violence, but not the chain of events that led to it. You see grief on one side, but you're not shown the grief on the other. That selective silence creates division, feeding anger, hatred, and misunderstanding. And then there are the stories that never make it to your screen at all. Entire villages erased from maps, entire families wiped out, entire generations living under fear, yet invisible to the world because they don't fit the narrative. When you don't see their pain, you start to believe it doesn't exist. Social media makes this worse. Clips are cut, headlines are shortened, and context is stripped away until complex human tragedies are reduced to viral sound bites. You're fed outrage in 30-second loops, while the real story drowns in the noise. What you see sparks reactions, but what you don't see shapes reality. The truth is out there, but it's scattered in fragments, buried under layers of bias, politics, and agendas. The full story exists, but you won't find it in a single headline, a single channel, or a single photo. Peace. It's a word we all claim to want. It's written in speeches, shouted in protests, and painted on walls. But peace isn't just a word. It isn't a slogan. It isn't a trending hashtag. True peace is the hardest battle humanity will ever fight, because peace requires courage. Courage to step beyond hatred. Courage to listen when anger is screaming louder than reason. Courage to see humanity before nationality, before religion, before politics. But here's the uncomfortable truth: the world has been taught to choose sides, to point fingers, to blame, to divide. You're either with us or against us. They are right, we are wrong. We are victims, they are aggressors. This thinking has built walls higher than any border ever could. And every time we choose a side, we push peace further away. Wars don't start with weapons. They start with stories. Stories about who belongs and who doesn't. Stories about who is right and who is wrong. Stories that tell us they are different from us. And when we buy into these stories without questioning them, we lose something bigger than land or politics. We lose our shared humanity. Peace demands something terrifying. It demands that we pause our anger long enough to hear the pain on the other side. It demands that we hold two truths at once, that two peoples can suffer, that two histories can collide, and that two sets of wounds can exist without canceling each other out. It takes courage to acknowledge another person's pain when you're drowning in your own. It takes courage to see a grieving mother and not ask where she was born before you decide if her tears are valid. It takes courage to stand in the middle of hatred, knowing you'll be called a traitor by both sides. But peace was never meant for the faint-hearted. The real battlefield isn't in the streets, it's in the human heart. That's where prejudice lives. That's where division grows. And that's where courage must rise. Peace doesn't come when one side wins. It comes when both sides choose humanity over vengeance. It comes when we realize that revenge can rebuild neither homes nor lives. It comes when we understand that the weight of grief is the same no matter which flag you're buried under. Think about it. The child in Gaza wants safety. The child in Tel Aviv wants safety. The mothers want their children to grow old. The fathers want their families to wake up tomorrow. Strip away the politics, the headlines, the speeches, and you will see the same thing on both sides, people who just want to live. And yet, the louder the world screams about who's right and who's wrong, the quieter the voices for peace become. Because peace isn't dramatic enough for the cameras. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't sell ads. It doesn't fuel outrage. But peace begins in conversations no one records. It begins when you choose to listen before you argue. It begins when you ask, what broke you? Instead of, who's to blame? It begins when you stand between two fires, risking burns, just to keep them from spreading. Real courage isn't raising your voice louder. Real courage is choosing silence long enough to hear the other side. Real courage is refusing to dehumanize the people you've been told to hate. Real courage is remembering that peace has no side, because humanity has no side. Look around you. The world is burning, not just from bombs and bullets, but from division. Every headline, every debate, every speech. It's always about borders, power, and politics. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. While leaders argue about policies, people are dying. While governments fight over land, families lose their homes. While politicians negotiate strategy, children lose their childhoods. Politics has its place, but humanity must come first. Somewhere in a destroyed neighborhood, a mother is holding her lifeless child. She doesn't care about political alliances or territorial claims. She cares about one thing, that she has lost everything. Somewhere else, a father is digging through rubble with his bare hands, not thinking about who's right or wrong, but hoping to pull out his daughter alive. And somewhere, a child is hiding under a bed, covering their ears, trying to block out the sound of explosions. That child doesn't care about political strategies. That child just wants the world to stop breaking. This is what happens when politics becomes louder than humanity. Leaders make speeches about victory, while civilians count bodies. Governments debate sovereignty, while people search for clean water. Politicians argue on TV, while families sleep on cold concrete floors with no food, no safety, no hope. We hear words like operations, security, territorial rights, and strategic interests. But those are just labels designed to hide the blood, the suffering, and the human cost behind every decision. And we, as a global society, have become numb. We scroll past images of war-torn streets, destroyed hospitals, and grieving families. And then we double-tap, swipe, and move on. We have become spectators of human suffering. Numbers replace names. Statistics replace stories. We are told, this side lost 50, or that side lost 100. But who tells us about the names behind those numbers? Who tells us about the dreams that were buried under the rubble? The tragedy is not just the violence. The tragedy is how normalized this has become. We debate politics, but forget the people. We choose sides, but forget the suffering. We defend flags, but ignore the graves. Humanity has been replaced by ideology, empathy replaced by opinion, and compassion replaced by competition. But here's the unshakable truth: no political agenda, no border dispute, no ideology is worth more than a single human life. You don't have to belong to a nation to feel someone's pain. You don't have to share a religion, a language, or a passport to understand loss. Grief speaks every language. Fear has no nationality. Hunger, pain, and love, these are things we all understand. We are connected by something deeper than politics. We are human first. And yet, leaders still act like land is worth more than lives. Like resources matter more than children. Like power matters more than peace. While they negotiate, people bleed. While they plan, families are destroyed. While they argue, humanity is crushed beneath the weight of their decisions. This is why we must look beyond sides, beyond politics, beyond the narratives carefully crafted to keep us divided. We must dare to see each other not as labels, not as us and them, but as people. People who love, people who hurt, people who dream, people who deserve to live without fear. The wars we see today are not just fought with guns and bombs. They are fought with information, manipulation, and control. You are told who to hate. You are told whose suffering matters more. You are shown only part of the picture, never the whole story. And so we fight each other without even realizing we're being played. But what if we stopped for a moment? What if we stripped away the politics, the flags, the divisions, and looked only at the faces? What if we saw a mother instead of a casualty, a child instead of a statistic, a father instead of an enemy? Because before there were nations, there were people. Before there were borders, there were families. Before there were political agendas, there was humanity. And if we lose sight of that, we lose everything. Have you ever felt invisible? Like no matter how loudly you scream, the world keeps turning without hearing you. Like your pain, your dreams, your truth, they don't matter. You scroll through the news, you see injustice, you see suffering, you see people crying out for help, and yet deep inside you, a quiet voice whispers, "What difference can I make?" But here's the truth they never tell you: your voice matters more than you think. Every great movement in history started with a single voice, one person, one thought, one refusal to stay silent. The world doesn't change when everyone agrees. It changes when someone dares to speak. Silence is the most powerful weapon of oppression. When you stay quiet, systems of injustice grow stronger. When you doubt yourself, those in power celebrate. When you convince yourself that your opinion doesn't count, you give permission for wrongs to continue unchallenged. Your voice carries weight. It carries stories, struggles, and truths that no one else can tell. You are living a life no one else has lived, walking roads no one else has walked, feeling pain no one else has felt. And in that uniqueness lies power. The problem is, the world has convinced you to doubt yourself. Society tells you, you're just one person. But revolutions don't start with crowds. They start with one person saying, enough. Think about it. One voice exposed corruption. One voice sparked protests. One voice ignited revolutions. One voice gave others permission to rise. Your voice could be that voice. But here's the thing. Using your voice doesn't always mean shouting from a stage. Sometimes it means having the courage to tell the truth when everyone else stays silent. Sometimes it means standing up for someone who can't defend themselves. Sometimes it means asking hard questions, challenging what's normal, and refusing to accept injustice as destiny. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, people will doubt you. Yes, some will try to silence you. That's because change threatens the ones who benefit from silence. But history remembers the ones who spoke, not the ones who stayed quiet. When you speak, you break chains, not just for yourself, but for others who are too afraid to speak. Somewhere out there, someone is waiting for permission to rise, and your courage could give it to them. Because the truth is, there are voices right now being drowned out by louder ones. There are truths hidden beneath propaganda, stories buried beneath politics, realities overshadowed by power. When you speak, you challenge those narratives. You create space for conversations no one else is willing to have. But maybe you're thinking, I'm not strong enough. You are. Strength doesn't come from power, fame, or influence. Strength comes from conviction, from knowing deep inside that something is wrong and refusing to stay silent. The people who changed the world weren't always the loudest. They were the ones who refused to give up. You have to understand this. Silence is a choice. And when you choose silence, someone else decides your future for you. Someone else writes your story. Someone else controls the narrative. Your voice is more than sound. It's resistance. It's hope. It's freedom. Think about the child who speaks up against bullying and saves another life. Think about the journalist who exposes the truth and changes an entire nation. Think about the ordinary citizens whose chants tore down walls and ended wars. None of them were powerful when they began, but they became powerful because they refused to be quiet. And here's another truth. Your voice doesn't have to reach millions to matter. Changing one life is powerful. Helping one person is meaningful. Sparking one idea can ripple through generations. We live in a world where we are constantly told what to believe, what to fear, who to love, and who to hate. But you have the right to question, to challenge, to think differently. Don't underestimate the power of asking, why? That single word has changed history. Your voice matters because it has the power to start conversations. And conversations become movements. Movements become revolutions. Revolutions become legacies. Every time you speak, you plant a seed. It might grow today, tomorrow, or years from now. But without your voice, nothing begins. And yes, there will always be people who try to dismiss you, silence you, or label you. But remember this, no one can take your voice unless you give it to them. No one can erase your truth unless you let them. No one can stop your story unless you choose to stay quiet. Somewhere, right now, someone is suffering in silence because they believe nobody cares. Your voice could be the one that says, I see you. I hear you. You matter. And sometimes that is enough to save a life. Your voice can challenge injustice. Your voice can question power. Your voice can inspire hope where there is none. Your voice can spark change in places you'll never even see. But first, you have to believe in it.